The first laugh cut deeper than the cold. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel at first. It was casual, careless, the kind of laugh people make when they think they're untouchable. Amara felt it before she understood it. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the long dining table as the sound spread across the room. Crystal glasses chimed. Someone clapped. Someone else said, "Well, this just made Christmas interesting." Her baby kicked inside her, a sharp, sudden movement, and she swallowed hard. This was not how it was supposed to happen. The hall was dressed for celebration. Golden ribbons hung from the ceiling. White lights wrapped around the pillars like frozen stars. A towering Christmas tree stood near the stage, its ornaments reflecting the faces of people who had never once wondered what it meant to struggle. And at the center of it all stood Amara, 7 months pregnant, hands trembling, divorce papers resting on the table in front of her like a death sentence. Across from her stood her husband, Daniel Hawthorne. Tall, confident, perfectly dressed in a charcoal suit that cost more than Amara's entire wardrobe combined. He looked calm, almost bored, like this was just another item on his evening agenda. "Go on," Daniel said lightly, lifting his glass. "Let's not drag this out." Amara stared at him. This was the same man who once promised her the world with nothing but a borrowed ring and a rented apartment. The same man who held her hair when morning sickness left her shaking on the bathroom floor. The same man who pressed his forehead to her belly just weeks ago and whispered, "My family will never hurt you. I swear." Behind him sat his family. His mother, Victoria Hawthorne, elegant and sharp-eyed, leaned back in her chair with a smile that never reached her eyes. His sisters sat together, whispering behind manicured hands. An uncle chuckled openly. A cousin lifted a phone, already recording. Amara's ears rang. "Daniel," she said softly, her voice almost lost beneath the music playing faintly in the background. "You said we would talk privately." Daniel shrugged. "Why? There's nothing private about the truth." The truth. That word felt heavy tonight. Victoria cleared her throat. "Dear," she said, her tone sweet like poisoned honey, "we have guests. People are waiting for the toast. Let's not make this uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. Amara almost laughed at the word. She looked around the room, at the silk dresses, the tailored suits, the people who had never skipped a meal or worried about rent. People who had never slept on a mattress on the floor while dreaming of something better. People who had never loved without protection. Her hand moved to her stomach. The room blurred for a moment. Daniel leaned forward. "You wanted honesty, right? This is honesty. We rushed into things. You don't fit into this family. And now that the baby is coming," he paused, glancing around the room, then back at her. "Well, we need to be practical." Practical. That word hit harder than the laughter. "Practical means throwing me away," Amara asked quietly. Someone snorted. A ripple of laughter followed. Not loud, not screaming, but enough. Enough to tell her exactly what she was to them. Victoria stood. "Amara, you should be grateful. Daniel is being generous. The settlement is fair for someone from your background." From your background. Amara felt heat rush to her face. She remembered the small house she grew up in, the nights her mother skipped dinner so she could eat, the scholarships, the long hours, the sacrifices. She remembered believing love could bridge worlds. Daniel slid the papers closer to her. "Sign them. We'll announce it as mutual, clean, quick." Her pen lay beside the documents. Black, heavy. The baby moved again. Amara's chest tightened. She wanted to scream, to ask how the man who once cried when she said yes could now stand here and humiliate her for sport. Instead, she whispered, "It's Christmas." Daniel smiled thinly. "Exactly." The meaning was clear. This was not just a divorce. This was a performance. A message. A warning. Amara looked up, meeting his eyes one last time. She searched for regret, for guilt, for anything that resembled the man she married. She found nothing. Her fingers closed around the pen. The room grew quiet, not out of respect but anticipation. Pens scratched, glasses hovered, cameras rolled. With shaking hands, Amara signed her name. The moment the pen left the paper, applause broke out. Actual applause. Someone laughed again, louder this time. And something inside Amara cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But completely. She stood without another word, gathered her coat, and walked out of the hall while laughter echoed behind her like broken bells. No one followed. No one called her name. Outside, snow fell softly onto the steps of the mansion. Amara placed one hand on her belly and whispered, "I promise you, this will not be the end of our story." She didn't know how yet. She only knew one thing. They thought this was over. They were wrong. The cold hit her first. Not the gentle Christmas cold from storybooks, but the sharp, biting kind that cut through her coat and settled into her bones. Amara stood at the edge of the Hawthorne estate's long driveway, snow crunching beneath her shoes, the mansion glowing behind her like a cruel joke. Laughter still drifted faintly through the walls. Music resumed, glasses clinked again. Christmas continued, just without her. She pulled her coat tighter around her belly, breathing slowly the way her doctor had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Don't panic, not now, not with the baby. A black luxury car rolled past her without slowing. She recognized one of Daniel's cousins inside. He didn't even look at her. Amara felt something sink deep inside her chest. She reached for her phone. No signal. Of course. Daniel had insisted she leave her car earlier in the day. "The valet situation will be crowded," he'd said. "I'll bring you back." She swallowed hard. The road ahead was long and empty. Snow covered the trees like silent witnesses. Every step away from the mansion felt heavier than the last. With each step, memories rushed back uninvited. Daniel holding her hand in the courthouse when they married quietly, without his family's blessing. Daniel promising, once they see how amazing you are, they'll accept you. Daniel kissing her forehead that very morning and saying, "After tonight, things will finally be settled." Settled? She laughed bitterly to herself. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Her heart leaped. Daniel. Instead, it was a message from an unknown number. "Don't come back for your things. We'll have them boxed and sent. The guest room is needed." Her knees buckled. Amara lowered herself onto a stone bench near the gate, pressing her palm against her mouth to stop the sob that rose in her throat. She couldn't cry loudly. She couldn't afford to scare the baby. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Okay, you're okay." She was. She scrolled through her contacts. Her mother had passed years ago. Her father had disappeared even earlier. Friends, most had drifted away after she married Daniel. His world had swallowed her whole. There was only one name left. Lena. Her childhood friend, the one Daniel always called dramatic, the one who warned her that family doesn't see you as one of them. Amara pressed call. It rang once, twice. "Amara," Lena's voice came through, sleepy but alert. "Is everything okay?" The dam broke. I need help," Amara said, tears finally spilling. "I don't have anywhere to go." There was a pause, not hesitation but decision. "Where are you?" Lena asked. "Near Daniel's family home." "Stay right there," Lena said firmly. "I'm coming." The call ended. Amara looked back once more at the mansion. The lights, the warmth, the life she thought she was building. She turned away. Lena's apartment was small, but it was warm. It smelled like coffee and clean laundry. A lamp glowed softly in the corner. A blanket waited on the couch like it had always been meant for her. Amara collapsed into it the moment she walked in. Lena didn't ask questions at first. She took Amara's coat, brought her water, and sat beside her, rubbing her back in slow circles until her breathing steadied. Only then did Lena speak. "What happened?" Amara stared at the wall. "He divorced me," she said quietly. At his family's Christmas party. Lena's jaw tightened. And they laughed, Amara continued, her voice flat now. They clapped, they recorded it. Silence filled the room. Then Lena stood abruptly. I'm going to jail, she muttered. Amara managed a weak smile. Please don't, I need you out here. Lena sat back down, eyes blazing. You're pregnant. I know. He made you sign papers while you're carrying his child. I know. Lena exhaled sharply, then softened. You can stay here as long as you need. No conditions, no timeline. Amara nodded, unable to speak. That night, she lay awake on the couch, one hand resting on her belly. The city outside hummed quietly, uncaring. She felt small, but something else stirred beneath the fear. Anger. Not loud, not explosive. Focused. She thought of Daniel's calm smile, his mother's satisfied eyes, the laughter. They believed she was finished. They believed she would disappear quietly, grateful for scraps. They didn't know her. Amara had survived worse than humiliation. She had survived hunger, loss, loneliness. And now she had something she never had before. A reason stronger than fear. The next morning, the first message came. Our lawyers will contact you. Please do not make this difficult. She deleted it. Then another. For the sake of the baby, don't embarrass yourself. She turned the phone face down. Lena watched her closely. What are you thinking? Amara looked at her reflection in the dark window, swollen eyes, tired face, but still standing. I'm thinking, she said slowly, that they made one mistake. Lena raised an eyebrow. Which is? They thought I had nothing. Amara placed her hand on her belly and felt a gentle kick. But I have everything to fight for. Outside, Christmas morning arrived quietly. Inside that small apartment, a different kind of beginning was taking shape. One that no one in the Hawthorne mansion could see coming. The envelope arrived 3 days after Christmas. No apology. No note. Just thick cream paper, stamped with a law firm's name so expensive it practically announced its power. Amara stared at it from across Lena's kitchen table. Her hands shook, not from fear this time, but from something closer to disgust. They didn't even mail it themselves, Lena said, folding her arms. Cowards. Amara opened the envelope slowly. Inside were copies of the divorce documents she'd signed that night. The same neat signature that still made her stomach twist, along with several additional pages labeled financial disclosure. She almost didn't read them. Almost. But something in her chest told her to keep going. Her eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. By the third, her breath caught. Lena, she whispered, this can't be right. Lena leaned over her shoulder. The settlement listed a modest one-time payment, enough to look generous on paper, enough to silence questions, enough to push her out of the way quietly. But it wasn't what it said that froze Amara. It was what it didn't say. There was no mention of Daniel's offshore accounts. No mention of the trust, funds established years ago. No mention of the investment firm Amara herself had helped organize in the early days, before Daniel's family even took her seriously. Her heart began to pound. They hid assets, Amara said softly. Lena's eyes widened. That's illegal. Amara flipped another page. And then she saw it. A clause. Small, easy to miss. In the event of undisclosed assets discovered post-signature, the agreement shall be subject to review under state marital disclosure laws. Her fingers tightened around the paper. They rushed this, Amara said. They thought I wouldn't read it. Lena smiled slowly. They thought you were desperate. Amara leaned back in her chair, memories clicking into place. Late nights, when Daniel insisted she step out of meetings. Emails she'd been removed from, for her own comfort. The way Victoria always changed the subject when finances came up. They didn't just want her gone. They wanted her ignorant. Amara closed the folder carefully. They made a mistake, she repeated. That afternoon, she made a call she had been avoiding. The number still worked. Law office, a calm voice answered. This is Amara, she said. I need to speak with Marcus Hale. There was a pause. Hold, please. Minutes passed. Then a voice she hadn't heard in years came on the line. Amara, Marcus said, I was wondering when you'd call. Her throat tightened. You knew. I suspected, he replied, but I couldn't interfere unless you asked. Marcus Hale had been her professor once. Later, he became one of the sharpest family law attorneys in the state. He had always warned her to protect herself, especially after she married into power. I signed under pressure, Amara said. Public humiliation, emotional distress, and now I believe assets were concealed. Silence. Then, where are you? Safe. Good, Marcus said, because if what you're saying is true, this isn't over, not by a long shot. 2 days later, Daniel's calm facade cracked. Amara knew because the calls started. One after another. She let them ring. Then the messages came. Why are you contacting lawyers? We agreed to keep this private. Don't turn this into something ugly. Ugly? The word made her smile for the first time in days. She finally answered one call. Daniel's voice was tight, controlled, but the ease was gone. What are you doing? He demanded. What I should have done before, Amara replied. Reading. You signed the agreement. Yes, she said calmly, and you violated it. That's ridiculous. Then you have nothing to worry about, she said. Silence. Then his tone shifted. Amara, he said, lowering his voice. Let's not do this. You're emotional, you're pregnant. We can fix this quietly. Quietly. Like the laughter. Like the applause. Like the way they boxed her life and sent it away. No, Amara said. You don't get quiet anymore. She ended the call. That evening, a courier delivered another package. This one was different. No law firm, no formal seal. Inside was a velvet box. Amara opened it with trembling fingers. Her wedding ring. No note. No explanation. Just the ring, like a reminder of what she'd lost. Or what they thought she wanted back. She closed the box and handed it to Lena. Throw it away, she said. Lena didn't hesitate. Later that night, Amara sat alone, one hand resting on her belly, the other on a legal pad filled with notes. Names, dates, numbers. She wasn't plotting revenge. She was reclaiming truth. And somewhere, in a mansion dressed in gold and silence, the Hawthorne family was starting to realize something was wrong. Very wrong. Because Amara wasn't begging. She wasn't hiding. She was preparing. And the truth, once uncovered, had a way of making even the loudest laughter disappear. The first sign came quietly. A missed call from an unfamiliar number. Then another. Then an email marked urgent. Amara watched the notifications stack up without touching her phone. Something happening, Lena said from the doorway, coffee mug in hand. Amara nodded. They're running out of room. The legal letter Marcus sent on her behalf had been precise, calm, almost polite. But it carried weight. It formally requested full disclosure of Daniel Hawthorne's financial records, domestic and international, along with documentation for every trust, shell company, and partnership established during the marriage. And it cited state law. Penalties, sanctions, court review. The kind of words powerful families feared. They thought I'd stay quiet, Amara said. They never expected this. Lena smiled. That's because they never really saw you. Daniel called again that evening. Amara answered this time. Are you trying to ruin me? He snapped. No, she replied. You're doing that on your own. You're embarrassing my family. You embarrass me first. Silence. Then his voice softened, too quickly. "We can talk," Daniel said, "face to face like adults." "Adults don't ambush pregnant women at parties," Amara said. "I was under pressure." "So was I," she replied, "and I was carrying your child." The words landed hard. Daniel exhaled. "What do you want?" Amara thought for a moment. "The truth," she said, "and what the law says I'm owed." He laughed nervously. "You think you can take on my family?" "I already am," she said. She hung up. The second sign came the next morning. A delivery van pulled up outside Lena's building. Two men carried boxes up the stairs. "Amara Hawthorne?" one asked. She nodded. "Additional personal belongings," he said. They set the boxes down and left. Inside were items that hadn't been included in the first shipment. Photo albums, old notebooks, a laptop she thought had been lost. And at the bottom of one box, a folder, marked in Daniel's handwriting. "Temporary." Her heart raced. She opened it carefully. Inside were printed emails, bank summaries, meeting notes. Her breath caught. These weren't just financial documents. They were proof. Proof that Daniel had transferred assets weeks before the divorce. Proof that trusts were restructured without her knowledge. Proof that decisions were made deliberately, not accidentally. "They didn't just hide money," Lena said, reading over her shoulder. "They planned this." Amara closed the folder. "They underestimated how messy power can be," she said quietly. By midweek, whispers began. Amara noticed them online first. A financial blog mentioned irregularities involving a prominent family-backed firm. A business forum speculated about an upcoming legal challenge. A charity quietly removed the Hawthorne name from an event announcement. Small things. But powerful families knew small cracks spread. Victoria Hawthorne made her first move that Friday. Not through lawyers. Through pity. She called Amara directly. "I'm disappointed," Victoria said coolly. "I thought you had more dignity than this." Amara almost laughed. "Dignity?" she asked. "You applauded my humiliation." "That was a misunderstanding." "No," Amara said. "That was intention." Victoria sighed dramatically. "You're pregnant. Stress isn't good for you or the baby. Let's settle this privately." "There's nothing private about fraud," Amara replied. A pause. Then Victoria's voice dropped, losing its sweetness. "You're making enemies you can't afford." Amara's hand rested protectively on her belly. "I already survived your family," she said. "I can survive your anger." She ended the call. That night, Amara met Marcus in person for the first time since the divorce. His office was modest compared to the Hawthorne world, but every inch of it felt solid. "These documents," Marcus said, reviewing the folder, "change everything." "What happens now?" Amara asked. "They'll try to settle," he said, quietly, quickly, with conditions. "And if I refuse?" "Then we go public." Amara swallowed. She had known this moment would come. Going public meant scrutiny, headlines, judgment. But silence had already cost her everything once. She looked up. "Then we go public." Marcus nodded. "I thought you'd say that." Later, alone again, Amara sat by the window, snow melting into rain outside. Her phone buzzed once more. A message from Daniel. "Please, my mother is panicking." Amara typed slowly. "She should be." She set the phone aside and closed her eyes. For the first time since Christmas night, she felt something shift. Not just strength. Control. The Hawthorne family had built their world on laughter, money, and silence. And now, silence was the one thing they could no longer afford. The article went live at 6:12 a.m. Amara didn't see it at first. She was half asleep on Lena's couch when her phone began vibrating nonstop. Calls, messages, alerts piling on top of one another like falling dominoes. Lena was the one who read the headline out loud. Prominent business, family accused of concealing assets in high-profile divorce, she said slowly. Amara sat up. Her heart didn't race the way she expected it to. Instead, it felt steady. Marcus had warned her the night before, once this starts, it won't stop. Are you ready? She hadn't answered then. But now, watching the truth finally step into daylight, she knew. Yes, she whispered, I'm ready. By noon, the story was everywhere. Financial news sites picked it up first, carefully worded, cautious, focused on numbers and legality. But by afternoon, mainstream outlets followed. And that's when the tone changed. Photos appeared. One of Daniel smiling at charity galas. One of Victoria seated regally at a fundraiser. And then, quietly, almost cruelly, an old photo of Amara, visibly pregnant, walking alone down the steps of the Hawthorne mansion that snowy night. The comments exploded. She was pregnant. They did this at Christmas. This is disgusting. Amara closed the app. She didn't want validation. She wanted accountability. Daniel showed up unannounced that evening. Lena opened the door and froze. Amara, Daniel said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. His suit was wrinkled, his hair slightly out of place. He looked human. You need to leave, Lena said sharply. 5 minutes, Daniel pleaded. Please. Amara stood slowly. Her body felt heavier now, not with fear, but with certainty. 5, she said. Daniel exhaled. This has gone too far. You mean too public, Amara corrected. My father's partners are calling, he said. Investors are pulling back, you're hurting people. Amara tilted her head. Funny, that never mattered when I was the one hurting. Daniel's voice cracked. What do you want from me? She studied his face, really looked at him. The man she once loved was gone. In his place stood someone desperate to protect a legacy, not a family. I want you to stop pretending this was a mistake, she said, and I want you to accept whatever comes next without trying to erase me again. Daniel swallowed. We can revise the settlement. No, Amara said, you don't revise the truth. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. My mother is furious. She says you're ungrateful. Amara laughed, a short, sharp sound. Ungrateful for what? She asked. Humiliation, silence, applause while I sign my life away. Daniel had no answer. Lena opened the door wider. Time, up. Daniel hesitated, then turned back to Amara. This won't end well, he warned. Amara met his gaze without blinking. It already didn't. I'm just telling the story now. He left. The door closed. And with it, the last illusion shattered. The next week was relentless. Court filings, interviews Marcus handled on her behalf, requests for statements she declined. But something unexpected happened too. Messages from strangers. Women who had been silenced. Men who had watched power protect cruelty. Mothers who recognized the look in her eyes from that photo. Thank you for not disappearing. You're braver than you know. You made me feel less alone. Amara read them quietly at night, one hand resting on her belly. This is bigger than them now, Lena said softly. Amara nodded. That scares me. It should, Lena replied, but it should also matter. Then came the call that changed everything. Marcus didn't waste time on pleasantries. They're offering a full settlement, he said. Significantly more than you're entitled to. No admission of wrongdoing, strict confidentiality. Amara closed her eyes. And if I refuse? They'll fight, Marcus said, hard and publicly. She thought of the Christmas lights, the laughter, the pen in her shaking hand. I won't be quiet, she said. Marcus paused. Then we prepare for court. That night, Amara stood alone on the balcony, the city lights glowing below. Her reflection in the glass startled her. She looked different. Still tired, still pregnant, but no longer small. She placed both hands on her belly. "They're scared now," she whispered to the child inside her. "Not because I'm loud, but because I didn't disappear." Inside a mansion not far away, a powerful family was learning a lesson they had never needed before. Some stories don't stay buried, and some women don't stay silent. The courthouse didn't look the way Amara imagined it would. There were no dramatic staircases, no echoing halls filled with shouting voices, just gray stone, metal detectors, and people moving quickly with folders tucked under their arms. Ordinary. That was what surprised her most. Something this painful, this life-altering, was unfolding in a place that looked like it handled 100 quiet disasters a day. Marcus walked beside her, calm and focused. Lena followed closely, carrying a small bag with snacks and water like a shield. "You don't have to speak today," Marcus reminded her. "Just sit, breathe, let them show who they are." Amara nodded. Her hand rested on her belly as she entered the courtroom. Daniel was already there. So was his family. Victoria sat in the front row, spine straight, chin lifted, dressed in black as if attending a funeral, not because she was mourning, but because she wanted to look untouchable. When Victoria's eyes met Amara's, they narrowed. No smile, no pity. Just calculation. The hearing began quietly. Procedural language, legal terms, dates. Then Marcus stood. "Your Honor," he said evenly, "this case concerns a divorce agreement signed under extreme emotional duress, with clear evidence of undisclosed marital assets deliberately concealed to disadvantage my client, who, at the time, was visibly pregnant." The word pregnant landed like a stone dropped into water. Ripples moved through the room. Daniel shifted in his seat. Victoria crossed her arms. Marcus continued. "We will demonstrate a pattern of financial transfers made weeks before the divorce, removal of my client from business communications, and coordinated actions intended to rush her into signing under public pressure." The judge looked up. Public pressure. Marcus nodded. The signing occurred at a family gathering attended by dozens of guests. My client was presented with documents, encouraged to sign immediately, and subjected to ridicule when she hesitated. Amara's chest tightened. She hadn't realized how ugly it sounded when spoken out loud. Daniel's attorney rose quickly. "Your Honor, these are exaggerated claims. The agreement was signed voluntarily." Marcus didn't argue. He simply handed over the folder. The same one, labeled temporary. The judge flipped through it slowly. The room went very quiet. Daniel was called to speak. He stood, straightened his jacket, and tried to look composed. "Yes," he admitted, "some assets were restructured before the divorce." "Why?" the judge asked. Daniel hesitated, just long enough. "For efficiency," he said. "Were these assets disclosed to your wife?" Daniel glanced at his lawyer. "No," he said. A murmur spread across the courtroom. Victoria leaned forward sharply. The judge's voice was calm but firm. "So you knowingly signed a financial disclosure stating there were no additional assets?" Daniel swallowed. "Yes." Silence. Then the judge wrote something down. Victoria stood next. Her voice was smooth, controlled. "My son was under immense stress," she said. "The marriage was failing. Emotions were high." The judge looked at her. "Did you encourage the timing of the signing?" Victoria paused. "Christmas was convenient," she replied. The judge's pen stopped moving. "Convenient," he repeated. Something shifted in the room. For the first time, Victoria looked uncertain. When Amara was asked to stand, her knees trembled, but her voice did not. "I didn't want to sign," she said quietly. "I was scared. I was surrounded. People laughed. I was told it was best for the baby." She took a breath. "I believed them." Her eyes met Daniel's. He looked away. The ruling that day was temporary, but it was decisive. The judge ordered a full forensic audit of Daniel's finances. The settlement was suspended. Penalties were discussed openly. And then the judge said something that echoed in Amara's mind long after the room cleared. This court does not look kindly on those who use power to humiliate the vulnerable. Outside, reporters waited. Cameras flashed. Marcus held up a hand. No statements today. Amara kept walking. Her heart pounded, not with fear but with release. For the first time, someone with authority had seen the truth. Not the polished version. The real one. That night, Daniel sent one final message. I never thought it would go this far. Amara stared at it for a long moment. Then she typed back. Neither did I, but you made sure it did. She turned the phone off. Lena sat beside her on the couch later, watching Amara breathe slowly as the baby kicked gently. You okay? Lena asked. Amara nodded. I am, she said, not because I won, but because I stood. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, something had changed forever. Power had been questioned. Silence had been broken. And for the first time since Christmas night, the laughter was gone. The Hawthorne name began to disappear. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like a painting being taken down from a wall after people finally noticed the cracks. Amara noticed it first online. A charity gala Daniel's family had hosted every year suddenly changed its title. A business podcast removed an old interview featuring Victoria. A foundation's website quietly replaced Hawthorne Family Trust with anonymous donor. Small changes, but deliberate ones. They're distancing themselves, Lena said, scrolling through her phone. No one wants to be the last one holding the match. Amara nodded. Power rarely vanished overnight. It leaked. Daniel stopped calling. Instead, his lawyer sent updates. Partners were asking questions. Banks were requesting clarifications. The forensic audit had expanded. Expanded. That word carried weight. Marcus explained it over the phone. They didn't just find what we expected, he said. They found patterns. What kind? Amara asked. The kind that suggests this wasn't the first time, Marcus replied. Amara closed her eyes. She thought of the women she'd never met, the ones who might have signed quietly, the ones who didn't have a Lena or a Marcus. This goes beyond me, she whispered. Yes, Marcus said gently, and that's why it matters. Victoria made one last attempt to control the narrative. An interview. Carefully arranged, carefully worded. She sat across from a journalist known for being sympathetic to wealthy families, her posture impeccable, her voice calm. This situation has been deeply misunderstood, Victoria said. We welcomed Amara into our home. We supported her. Unfortunately, some people struggle with gratitude when relationships end. Amara watched the clip later that evening. Her hands shook, not with fear but with disbelief. She's rewriting history, Lena said. She always has, Amara replied. But this time, something was different. The comments were not what Victoria expected. Why was she signing papers while pregnant? Why Christmas? Why hide money if everything was fair? The interview backfired. Within hours, a second article appeared, this one less polite. It included excerpts from court transcripts, including the word convenient. Victoria's face disappeared from public view after that. One afternoon, Amara received an email that made her stop breathing. It wasn't from a reporter. It wasn't from a lawyer. It was from a woman she didn't know. I went through something similar with the Hawthorne Group years ago. I thought I was alone. Thank you for speaking up. Attached was a document. Evidence. Amara forwarded it to Marcus without hesitation. Then another message arrived. And another. Stories. Proof. A pattern. Marcus called that night, his voice low but steady. This just became a class of its own, he said. They can't contain this anymore. Daniel finally broke his silence days later. He showed up again, not angry this time. Defeated. I lost 2 board seats, he said quietly, standing in Lena's living room. My father won't speak to me. Amara looked at him. She felt no triumph. Only distance. I didn't do that, she said. Your choices did. He nodded slowly. I know. For the first time, he looked at her belly with something like regret. I never meant to hurt you, he said. Amara's voice was calm. Intent doesn't erase impact. He closed his eyes. I wish I could take that night back. So do I, she replied, but wishing doesn't undo applause. Daniel left without another word. That evening, Amara stood alone again by the window. The city reflected back at her, fractured, bright, alive. Her phone buzzed with a notification. A headline. Audit uncovers long-standing financial misconduct linked to prominent family firm. She didn't click it. She already knew. She placed both hands on her belly. This isn't about revenge, she whispered. It's about truth. And the truth had teeth. The Hawthorne family had built their image on perfection. But perfection doesn't survive scrutiny. And once people see the cracks, they can't unsee them. The settlement offer arrived quietly. No press release. No dramatic announcement. Just an email from Marcus with a single line at the top. This one is different. Amara read the attachment slowly. Every hidden asset accounted for. A public acknowledgement of wrongdoing, carefully worded, but unmistakable. Financial security for her, and the child that went far beyond money. And something new. A clause establishing an independent fund for women affected by coercive divorce practices, funded by the Hawthorne Group, overseen by an external board. Lena leaned over her shoulder. They're bleeding. They're trying to cauterize, Amara replied. Marcus called moments later. They want this to end, he said, and they're willing to pay in ways that actually matter. Amara stared at the screen. Ending it meant peace. Security. No more hearings. No more headlines. But it also meant deciding what justice looked like when revenge wasn't the goal. What happens if I accept? She asked. They'll survive, Marcus said honestly. Changed, weakened, watched, but still standing. And if I do? Then we keep going, he said. Years, maybe. Amara closed her eyes. She thought of her child, of sleepless nights and first steps, of a future that needed stability more than spectacle. I'll accept, she said finally, with one condition. Marcus smiled through the phone. I was hoping you'd say that. The condition was simple. No confidentiality about the night at the party. No gag clause about the circumstances of the signing. No rewriting of history. They don't get to pretend this never happened, Amara said. They can move forward, but they don't get erasure. The Hawthorne lawyers resisted. Then folded. Because for the first time, silence wasn't their leverage anymore. Amara moved out of Lena's apartment a month later. Not into anything extravagant. Just a small place with light-filled windows, a nursery painted soft green, and a couch that faced the sunrise. Lena helped assemble the crib. You're really okay? She asked, tightening a screw. Amara smiled. I am. And she meant it. The world felt quieter now, not empty, just calm. The kind of calm earned the hard way. Daniel sent one final letter. Handwritten. No lawyers. No excuses. I'm sorry for the way I let power turn me into someone I don't recognize. I won't ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I see it now. Amara read it once, then placed it in a drawer. Some apologies weren't meant to be answered. On a clear spring morning, Amara stood in the nursery, sunlight spilling across the floor. She rested her hands on her belly as the baby moved gently, steadily, strong. You'll hear stories about where you come from, she whispered. About money, about names. She smiled. But the truth is simpler. She looked around the room. You come from a woman who refused to disappear. Outside, life continued. The headlines faded, the noise moved on. But something lasting had been built in the quiet. Not just a future. A standard. And that was something no one could ever take away again. The news cycle forgot. It always did. One week, the Hawthorne name was everywhere. Headlines, debates, whispered conversations in places Amara had never stepped foot in. The next week, something louder arrived. Another scandal. Another outrage. The world moved on. And for the first time, Amara was grateful for that. She watched it happen from a distance, seated in a quiet clinic room with pale blue walls, her hands folded in her lap as the doctor adjusted the monitor. There, the doctor said, smiling. Strong heartbeat. The sound filled the room. Fast, steady, alive. Amara closed her eyes as tears slipped down her cheeks. Not from sadness. From relief. Motherhood arrived not as a dramatic moment, but as a slow transformation. Long nights. Swollen feet. Moments of fear, followed by unexpected calm. Amara learned the weight of silence, the good kind. The kind where no one was demanding explanations, apologies, or compromises. Lena remained a constant presence, dropping by with groceries, unsolicited advice, and bad jokes. You know, Lena said one evening, sitting on the floor of the nursery, a year ago you were begging that man to listen. Amara smiled faintly. I was begging him to see me. And now I don't need him to. The fund launched quietly. No gala. No speeches. Just a website, a mission statement, and a growing list of women reaching out. Some wanted legal guidance. Some wanted resources. Some just wanted to be heard. Amara didn't run it day to day. She didn't need to. But she read the letters. Every one. And with each story, she felt the weight of what almost happened to her. How easily she could have signed and disappeared. How close she came to becoming a footnote. Daniel's world continued to shrink. Not dramatically, but noticeably. He resigned from one board to focus on personal matters. Then another. He wasn't ruined, but he was changed. And that, Amara realized, was the difference between justice and destruction. Justice corrected the path. Destruction only satisfied the moment. One afternoon, while organizing old documents, Amara found the photo album she'd nearly forgotten. Her wedding photos. She sat on the floor and flipped through them slowly. There she was, younger, hopeful, smiling at a future she believed in. She didn't feel anger. She felt compassion. Not for Daniel. For herself. You didn't know, she whispered to the woman in the photos, but you survived. She closed the album and placed it back on the shelf. Some memories didn't need to be erased. They just needed context. As summer approached, Amara stood on her balcony again, the same place where months earlier she had watched the city with fear and uncertainty. Now the air was warm. Her belly was heavy. Her heart was steady. She rested a hand on the railing and breathed deeply. This is enough, she said aloud. Not wealth. Not victory. Not revenge. Enough. Inside her, a new life waited. And outside, the world no longer demanded anything from her. The night labor began. It was raining. Not the violent kind, just a steady, patient rain that washed the streets clean and blurred the city lights into something soft and forgiving. Amara stood in her kitchen, one hand gripping the counter, the other resting on her belly as the first real wave passed through her. She exhaled slowly. This is it, she whispered. Lena arrived 10 minutes later, hair half wet, keys still in hand. Okay, she said, eyes wide but steady. We've trained for this, sort of. Amara laughed, a real laugh, the kind that surprised her with its lightness. They left the apartment quietly. No cameras, no noise, no audience. Just two women, and a moment that didn't belong to anyone else. The delivery room was small. White walls, soft beeping machines, a nurse with kind eyes who spoke gently and listened carefully. Hours passed. Pain came and went like waves, strong, demanding but purposeful. And through it all, Amara held on to one thought. I stayed. When the final moment arrived, it wasn't dramatic. It was overwhelming. A cry filled the room, sharp, alive, undeniable. The nurse placed the baby in Amara's arms, warm and real and impossibly small. There you are, Amara whispered, tears streaming freely now. I've been waiting for you. In that instant, every laugh from that Christmas night lost its power. Every insult faded. Every attempt to reduce her to nothing failed. Because here was proof. She had not been erased. Weeks later, the world felt slower. Nights blurred into mornings. The apartment filled with quiet sounds, breathing, tiny movements, the soft rhythm of a life just beginning. Amara sat in the rocking chair by the window, the baby asleep against her chest. Outside, the city moved on unaware. She didn't mind. Her phone buzzed once. A final notification. The court had closed the case. No appeal. No revision. Final. Amara didn't open the document. She didn't need to. Justice had already arrived in a form no courtroom could provide. One afternoon, a small package arrived. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of paper. I hope one day our child knows you were strong. No name. Amara stared at the words for a long time. Then she folded the paper and placed it in a drawer, not out of bitterness, but acceptance. Some acknowledgments came too late to change the past, but they could still mark the truth. As winter returned, Amara stood once more near a Christmas tree, this time a small one in her living room, decorated with simple lights and handmade ornaments. No gold. No audience. No laughter meant to wound. She held her child close and smiled softly. They thought dignity could be taken, she whispered, but it can only be surrendered. And she never had. If you're listening to this story right now, pause for a moment and tell me, where in the world are you hearing it from? Your city, your country, your corner of the map. I read those comments, and they remind me these stories don't travel alone. And if this journey stirred something in you, if it spoke to strength, fairness, or the quiet power of standing your ground, stay with this channel. Turn on alerts, subscribe, and walk with us into the next story. There are more truths waiting to be told, and more reminders that respect is never given by applause, it's earned by courage.